In this tutorial, I want to show you how to sew in sleeves for the Marlow. So I've been working with a short sleeve here, and this is my plain front bodice, and of course this is the arm sky. We are going to gather up the basting stitches, and if you've already done that, then the next step is just to slightly gather these stitches. So let's do that. And we don't want to do it too much, obviously, because then we're going to have a gathered sleeve, so we don't want that. But we do want a little bit, because this sleeve, like all set in, sew-in sleeves, they have a little bit more ease than the garment's arm sky, and so of course you just need to gather that up a little bit. So and as we're gathering those basting stitches, you can see how the seam allowance is cupping just a little bit, and the front of the sleeve is still remaining flat, so that's great. So I want to get this, you see how this one thread is a little bit gathered and this one is not. So I want to gather that the same amount. So let's just get that top thread and do that. So it's just even. Do that a little bit more. And doing sleeves, just take your time. Don't be in a rush. The old adage, practice makes perfect, is so true in this process. All right, I believe that is a great start. So let's go ahead and attach it to the bodice. First of all, we'll want to start with lining up our underarm seams. So let's do that. Sorry. And as you can see here, let's just get these triangles matched up. So we have one triangle there, and that's going to match up the one triangle on the bodice, which is the front. And then we have two triangles on the back of the sleeve, and that's going to match up with two triangles on the back of the bodice. And then of course your seam allowance should be pointing to the back. So, and I like to pin on the sleeve side, and that's just my preference. It's not necessary, but that's just how I like to do it. And of course that blue dot right there on the sleeve, we want to match it to the center top of the bodice, the center top seam of the bodice. So we're just gonna turn our bodice around just a little bit, and so we can pin on the inside of the sleeve. So here we go, and as you can see, it's a little bit gathered already. Let's go ahead and match up those triangles. All right. And there's still a little bit more ease that we need to kind of gather up. So let's take our stitches, or our thread tails, and gather up the sleeve just a tiny bit more, just gently, not too much. And that seems right to me. Let's go ahead and do the other side. All right, that's great. Okay, let's go ahead and start pinning. And we're just gonna wanna ease these, it's gonna have a tendency to put some tucks in. We just wanna get those tucks, pin them out. Sorry for the alarm there. Beeper. It's telling us what time it is. Okay. And when I pin, I like to pin where I'm going to be, of course, I'm going to be stitching right on the inside of that 3/8 seam, because your seam allowance is 1/2 inch. So you're going to be, you know, stitching right along there. So just pinning it around that track, if you want to, if you want to use that word. Okay. And I'm just, as I'm going around, I'm feeling that area where I'm going to be sewing, you know, the 1/8 or 1/2 inch seam allowance. Just feeling, making sure that there's no tucks in that area. Let's go ahead and get stitching it. So insert it in your machine, and once you're happy with it, I do want to mention this, that if you are pinning and you think, okay, this is, you know, not how I'm liking it, but of course when I start stitching it, it's going to look great. That is not right. So it's not true. Usually that doesn't work. You want to make sure that you're happy with how it looks first as you're pinning it, and then stitch it. So I'm happy with that. So I like to start at the underarm seam allowance. Okay, and I'm just kind of also with my thumbs, I'm making sure that the arm side, which is the bodice, it is flat as well. And I'm also stitching the seam with my pin staying in my sleeve. I know that's very hard on your machine, or it's not as it's not recommended, but just to sew in the sleeve, I want to make sure that those that ease is pinned in, so no we don't get any tucks. And if you see a tuck kind of forming, what you can do is grab a pin in the back that you've already, you know, used or whatever, so you don't need to take an additional one from the front, but in the back, and just kind of like spread the gathers around. That is fine. I'm going to take these pins out too. I think that it's just easier. Once you've sewn through them, it's just easier to take out. And just go slow around this. No need to rush this process. It does take a little bit of you know, patience, but it is so worth it. Your effort, it just is worth it. And I see a little tuck forming right there, so I just want to kind of ease it out with my pen. We'll take these pins out since we've already sewn through those. Make sure underneath is still straight or flat. Oops. This pin is, there you go. And you can backstitch right at the ending. And we'll want to just take out our pins and then check before we go any further to make sure that we did not maybe, you know, put in a tuck when we were sewing and we didn't realize, oops, there seems to be a little bit of a tuck. And usually those kind of tucks can just be, you know, with your finger or thumb, you can just edge them out really easily. They're not a pleat or anything. So that's all straight. So let's see the outer. There you go. And there's no tucks or pleats. You're ready to go.